morning. Sorry.
What statute gives the president the authority to seal the border?
Look, Democrats are leaving us absolutely no choice at this point. We've already had to move roughly 750 personnel from ports of entry at this point, and it looks like we're going to have to move more, which will force those lines to go longer to cross the border, and eventually it may be that it's the best decision that we close the border. Even Obama's own Secretary at Department of Homeland Security from the Obama administration, Jay Johnson, has said that this is a crisis. People are starting to understand exactly what the president has said was going to happen all along, and it's unfortunate because this could have been something that we fixed if Democrats had been willing to work with us. Hopefully they see the impact that it's having on our border and on our Border Patrol agents, and they'll be willing to step up and do their jobs and help the president. Peter, go ahead.
Sarah, disrupted by this,
I'll come back over. Peter.
Sarah, why did the president grant security clearances to people who were deemed potential risks?
I'm not aware that he did, but what I can tell you is I'm not going to get into individual security clearances, but what the Democrats are doing is playing a very dangerous and a shameful game, frankly. They're asking for personal, private, and confidential information from individuals that they know that they have no right to see, and they're putting the 3 million people that do have a security clearance at risk. If you put and exploit one individual, you're putting all 3 million people's personal information at risk, and that's shameful that they're doing that. We've worked with Democrats. We've cooperated with them throughout the process. We showed them documents that have to do with the security clearance process. We went over to the Hill and walked them through that. We invited those individuals and their staff to come to the White House and sit down with administration officials and walk through that. We'll continue to cooperate, but they can't ask for information that they know they legally have no right to see. Paula.
But can you assure us that in instances where they did decide to override a denial, that they followed protocol? Because her concern is that they would override these decisions, not explain why, and not even acknowledge the red flags. I mean, is the White House taking shortcuts with national security?
Not at all. Again, there is a process we're following. I'm not going to get into individual security clearances. We know that we have, that we have a policy here at the White House not to discuss individual security clearances. Again, we are cooperating with Democrats. We're walking them through what that process looks like, but we're not going to exploit individuals and their personal information at the hands of Democrats who want to play political games.
You said it might be the best decision to close the border, but when you talk about the commerce that flows to Mexico and from Mexico back into the U.S., is the White House concerned at all that there are risks, real economic risks, with shutting down the border?
Certainly we don't want to see, this isn't our first choice. Our first choice would be for Democrats to actually sit down with us and help fix a broken system to address the national security and humanitarian crisis that exists at our border. We're at a breaking point, and they have left the president absolutely no choice. The president has spent the last 2 years helping build up this economy and helping create the boom that we have. He certainly doesn't want to hurt that, but at the same time, his number one job as the president is to protect life and to protect Americans. And he's going to do that. And he's going to make sure that he makes choices, even on the hard days, because that's what he was elected to do in order to protect that. Democrats, they're perfectly fine letting people having open borders and letting people come into American communities, whether we know who they are or not, whether we know whether they want to do good things or not. In fact, what they're doing is exploiting the very most vulnerable people across the globe, women and children. We know that a large percentage, up to 31% of women who make that treacherous journey are sexually assaulted. We know that 60% or more are violently attacked. That is awful. Why would we incentivize that type of process to continue to happen? The president wants to stop it. He wants to protect those individuals, and he wants to protect American lives.
What is the date that the president has in? What is the date that the president has in mind for when the border can shut down?
The president's not working on a specific timeline. He's working to look at all of the options on the table. We're hoping that Mexico will continue to step up like we've seen them do over the last couple of weeks. We hope that that continues and that we can work with them so that we don't have to do that. We'd also love to see Democrats get serious about fixing the crisis at the border and work with us. Steve?
What they're doing
last week as well?
They have started to do a significant amount more. We've seen them take a larger number of individuals and hold in Mexico that have asylum claims while they wait to be processed in the United States. We've also seen them stop more people from coming across the border so that they aren't even entering into the United States. So those two things are certainly helpful, and we'd like to see them to continue to up those efforts. Emerald?
Is this what CBP has said that the president should do? What kind of feedback have they given the president on their end about closing the border?
Yeah, I mean, the president has been talking to a number of administration officials, including the folks at CBP. You've heard them for months. Most of your networks refuse to cover them and refuse to report the crisis that we've seen, the crisis that these individuals, many of them career officials, many of them Obama administration officials, have said we're at a breaking point. Like, we need help. We need more personnel. We need more resources. And Congress has completely ignored their request. But hopefully they'll start to listen now, because they see the tremendous amount of pressure that it's putting on our borders and on American communities.
Will the president commit to releasing the details of a health care plan before voters go to the polls in 2020, now that he's saying he wants to take a vote right after the next election?
Look, the president wants to talk about the principles. He wants to work with Congress in order to come up with the right health care plan. The things that I know that he's focused on are making sure that we protect pre-existing conditions, that we lower the cost, we make it more affordable, and top and foremost is that we have to allow patients to have a say in the care that they receive. It is a complete and total contrast to what you're seeing the Democrats put forward right now. They want to drive Medicare for all. They want a total government takeover of health care. We know that they've lied in the past when it comes to health care, when they say that if you like your insurance, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. Why in the world would we ever want to let government be more involved in the personal decisions that an individual or that a family is making about their health care? I'm pretty sure we don't. We know that it's a failure. We know that that's a disaster. We know that it doesn't work, and we know Americans don't want it. So we also know Democrats are unwilling to work with this president to fix the broken system that we have, whether it's on health care, whether it's on immigration. If they want to get serious about sitting down and actually solving problems over the next 2 years, we'd be more than happy to do that. But so far, all we've seen from them is that they want to play political games and not actually do their jobs.
Sarah, on the Mueller report, the president previously said that he has no problem with it being released. He wanted all of it released. And now he's saying that releasing it would not satisfy Congressman Nadler and Congressman Schiff. Did he receive any information on the contents of the report that would make him decide that maybe he doesn't want that information released?
No, the president hasn't been briefed on the report. The president's still allowing the Attorney General to make that decision. But we know by the actions that we've seen from Nadler and other Democrats in Congress is that the president's right. They will never be satisfied. They're sore losers. They lost in 2016. They lost because they tried to convince all of America of something that we all knew was untrue, that the president had colluded with Russia. It was a total lie then. It's a total lie now. And they continue to lose on this issue. At some point, they have to decide that they're ready to move on like the rest of the country.
Would the president consider any carve-outs or exceptions in closing the border, carve-outs for legal entry into the United States, legal entry into Mexico, or carve-outs related to commerce?
Certainly, we're looking at all options when it comes to closing the different ports of entry, what that looks like and what the impacts would be. CEA is doing a number of studies on this and working with the president to give him those updates.
Sarah, so CEA is doing studies, they're looking at it?
Yes, they are.
But again, we've already had to move 750 personnel from ports of entry. We're expected to have to move additional personnel from those ports over the next few days if we don't see drastic changes take place at the border. Again, this isn't our first choice. Our first choice would be simple: fix the law. We know what the problems are. Democrats know what the problems are. So I think that you guys should spend some time asking them, look, if you don't want this to happen, what is your plan to fix the problem? Nobody is asking them. They're all saying that they're willing to do something, yet no one knows what they're willing to do. We'd love to see them step up.